Welcome to Love and Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started.
When was the last time you truly paid attention to the way you speak to yourself? Or better yet, hold on, what would change in your life if your self-talk was actually rooted in self-compassion and not criticism? Our inner dialogue can shape everything: the way we love, the way we heal, the way we believe in what's possible. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. Hi, everyone. Victoria here, the self-love scientist. And today I am joined by Karen, a psychotherapist based in New York City, who knows both personally and professionally how powerful it can be to shift your inner narrative, especially when life has knocked you down. Karen, welcome to Love and Lattes.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Me too. Before we hit record, everybody, we were already getting into it, and I was like, damn. I can't wait to get into this. But first and foremost, Karen, what I kind of wanted to start with was how did your own personal experiences shape what the work you're doing now? And if you could share just a little bit about that, and I'll let you kind of guide it. Like, what is it that you do and where did this come from before we get into reframing?
So I'm a psychotherapist in New York City, and I was always that kid who got in trouble for talking too much in class. That was me. I won the Chatterbox Award at camp, and my grades were mediocre in school, and I never knew what I was going to do. And then I got to college and enter in my own therapist. I was going through some issues at home, and my parents were like, you either go get help and talk to a therapist, or you got to get out of the house and good luck. And so I was like, oh, therapy is the better option. And when I was in college and I was trying to decide on a major, I was like, I could do what my therapist did. I could sit and listen to people and help them. Like, that sounds like the perfect career for me. So that's how I got into being a therapist. But more specifically, how I got into this conversation about negative self-thoughts and how they impact. So I have my own childhood stuff, like most of us do, and I carried it with me into my marriage. And many years into my marriage, probably almost 18 years into my marriage, we hit a very hard financial time. We're talking 14 months of missed mortgage payments, like credit cards, accounts were seized, liens on our house. It was a financial nightmare, and it just unraveled. It was a nightmare. So all of this unraveled 3 months after I left my full-time agency work in order to concentrate on my private practice. And so immediately I jumped into survival mode and I started sending out resumes. I was like, I got to get back to agency work. I need that guaranteed paycheck. And I went on an interview one day, and I was on the Staten Island ferry, and I was coming back across the ferry, and I just started crying. I was like, I don't want to go back to agency work. I don't know, like, what am I doing? Like, what's happening in my life? Like, it just all unraveled on that Staten Island ferry ride. If you know anything about the ferry, it's about a 25-minute ride. That 25 minutes was the most life-changing part of my life. So I was on that boat, and I was thinking about that interview I just had. And I started thinking to myself, if I was a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, nobody would be telling me to go back to a job. They would tell me, hustle, build your practice, do what you have to do, and provide for you and your kids, and get through this. And so literally I thought about that, and I was like, what's holding me back from building my private practice? And I started initially just checking in with myself and being like, well, you're not smart enough. And I was like, well, where does that message come from? And when I really thought about it and some other stuff came up from my past, I was like, but that's not true. Like, I have a grad school from a master's degree from a pretty impressive grad school, and I've gotten good grades in college. So when I really started like looking at the evidence that did not support that negative belief, I was like, but I am smart enough. And another negative thought that came up for me was, well, you're not good enough. Your clients aren't going to like you. And I was like, but by this point, I have almost 20 years of work experience, and I've always had good relationships with my clients, and I've always been able to engage people. So where is that coming from? And when I look at that evidence, what does that say about me? By the time I got off that ferry boat, I called my parents up and I was like, I know everything that's going on with my finances, but I'm going to make a go of my practice, and I'm not going to take this job, and I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm going to hustle, and I'm going to get through. And I did. I got through everything. I was able to pay everything off. I divorced my ex-husband who got us in that position. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to move on from this. And now in my work with clients as a trauma therapist, what I see is a lot of people come in and they tell me that they're anxious or depressed. And when we really pick apart what's causing that anxiety or depression, it's a lot of negative thoughts. I'm not lovable. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm too much. I hear that a lot. I'm too much. And so when you really pick that apart and really look at where do those messages come from? It's usually stuff that other people put on us, whether it's an ex-husband, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is, parents, caregivers, teachers, bullies, childhood bullies put a lot on us. And what I recognize as a therapist now is that's based on those people's experience, and who we are as adults isn't necessarily what they put on us or prescribe to us. And so I work with my clients, male and female, to kind of undo those negative messages and leave that there, and then work on, what do I know to be true about myself? How do I hold on to those true traits that I'm grateful for? And then make the small changes that I want to make to help me accomplish my goals. Does that
Amazing.
make sense?
Thank you for sharing that part of your story, by the way. I think that's very powerful and a very core memory for you, being on that ferry and being like, no, this isn't true. I don't believe this. And
Yeah.
I have to say, I do think that, like even from personal experiences, I remember feeling like the output of what I was doing was never enough. And then I did link it back to, that was like my relationship dynamic. It was like, I'm trying really hard, but I still like, I'm not enough, or I'm not lovable. And I feel like that negative self-talk can hold us back from some of the greatest opportunities. For you, it was starting your business. And then personally for me, it was getting out of a relationship that wasn't working. And the moment we're able to reframe it, we, can pivot ourselves and push forward into like the next best chapter.
Absolutely. So many people stay in bad relationships, bad jobs, bad whatever, because of those negative messages that hold them back, and the fear that, what if that's true? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not smart enough? And then I'm out there on my own, and where am I going to get support? Where am I going to get security? Where am I going to get safety from? And when you really look at that and you're able to build that up, you're able to take those steps. Like, I have a client who I work with who literally was in a relationship that was falling apart. She knew it was falling apart, and literally she was a casual runner. And this might sound trivial to some people, but she was a casual runner. Every once in a while, every couple of days, would go out for a 2-3 mile run. And when I asked her what her goals were, she was like, I don't know, I'd kind of love to run a marathon. And there was the United Half, which is a big marathon here in New York coming up. And I was like, why don't you put in for that? She's like, that's lottery. I'm never going to get in. She got in. She ran United Half. That was in March. The same year, she qualified for New York City. So she started and trained for the New York City Marathon all in the same year. And during that process, she also went back to school for her master's degree. So here it was with someone who was struggling with their relationship and staying in it, even though it was an unhealthy dynamic, and accomplished 3 of her main goals all within a couple of months' time. So when we really believe in ourselves, and really, even if it's scary, can shift those thoughts just a little bit to, maybe I could do it. Maybe I could take the next step. And you break it down to the smallest possible next step. It's amazing what could happen just stepping a little bit outside that comfort zone.
Exactly. I love that story about your when it comes to the inner dialogue, you did mention something that was it is pretty interesting that, we're hearing these thoughts, or we're creating these affirmations, whether or not you're about to make a change in a relationship or go after the things you want. But then you're like, oh, like, I can't do that. I could never do that. I'm not good enough. But we're repeating things that we've heard.
Yeah.
And like, it could be something as super small as like what your teacher told you, like you're too loud. Like that stuff is actually quite core. And
It,
we'll hold on to that for a long
ever.
time.
It could also be messages that are unspoken. So that's the key, because a lot of times people come in and they're like, I don't know where I got this message from, that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not smart enough, or I'm not this. And, you know, parenting has been changing over the years, but back in the day, parents weren't as aware as what they were saying. So it's not that parents meant to be abusive or meant to instill these negative thoughts, but they were doing the best that they could in those moments. So sometimes it could even be a comparison to a classmate or a comparison to a sibling that really sets somebody off into like, well, I'm not that classmate and I'm not that sibling, so So it could be like a classmate comparison or a sibling comparison, and those spoken and unspoken messages that we get from a teacher, a parent, whoever is making that comparison. Because if classmate A got 100 and I only got a 99, does that mean that I'm less than? And that less than really impacts on us. And that less than message, when it impacts on us, it could be negatively or positively. And when it's negative, we tend to reinforce those negative beliefs about ourselves. It's almost easier, but it takes the same amount of mental energy and physical energy and emotional energy to think positively about yourself as it does to think negatively about yourself.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah.
And so here's something interesting. I'm sure you've heard it through your clients, but you know how they'll say, oh, like start with affirmations, like you are beautiful and you are smart and you are, you're brave enough, you will be successful. What are your thoughts on using those even when you don't believe them? Like how can we start really creating that connection? What does that look like?
So there's a lot of different things that we could do. And one of my favorite homework assignments, and this is on my website, but one of my favorite homework assignments is I tell all my clients, some place where it is secure, right? Where no one else is going to have access to, whether in your phone, your computer, if there's a notebook. I'm a pen and paper kind of girl, so I like to write things down. What I ask all my clients to do is to keep a running list of all of the good things about themselves that they like. This is not monetary. This is not like, oh, I have the best Louis Vuitton bag or Christian Louboutin shoes. No, what I'm looking for is I'm caring, I'm nurturing, I'm kind. I was funny today with my friends. My friend needed an ear to listen to, and I was there to help her. Those kind of traits is what I'm looking for. And I ask my clients all the time, this process is not always going to be an easy one. And there's still going to be times where those doubts are going to creep in. But if we have a list that we are grateful for about ourselves, it gives us a starting point that when we need to, we can reflect back. When things are starting to look bad or feel bad, we can look back at that list and remember to be grateful for those things about ourselves. And I ask people every day, when they go to bed at night and they put their head on the pillow, I'm grateful for the fact that I fill in the blank, whatever that blank is. I'm grateful that I was able to help my kids today. I was grateful that I was able to go to the store and interact with a stranger today, even if it's just holding the door for them when I see them with bags. Whatever it is, just something about yourself that you're grateful for.
I like that. I like that you're changing the direction instead of going, let me look for something outside of me. Like
Yes.
I went to work today or I got good hours of sleep. It's like, no, you're giving yourself almost permission
Mm-hmm.
to see the value in yourself, that's
And
wonderful.
I think the reason why I like doing the gratitude about ourselves is because there are things that we could honestly relate to. Like those are the examples of our day-to-day life that like this happened. Whereas affirmations, I think to start, they feel a little awkward and a little uncomfortable because we don't truly believe them yet, because they're a little bit more in the future. You know, I will be successful. Well, how do I know that? What am I basing that on? Whereas I am grateful that today I was able to send out a resume. If that's what it is, like you're trying to look for a job, I was able to do that. I was able to log in. I was able to go out there. I was able to read. I was able to do these things. And that's the first step in that. And I think it's a little bit more concrete than looking towards the future or things that you want to necessarily kind of believe, if that makes sense. So I want to start with that concrete list of things that you already know about yourself.
That's a great idea. And I hope for everyone listening, write this down, or I'll also have Karen's website
Yeah.
linked in the show notes so you can take a look at this activity, because I like that, especially at the end of the day when sometimes it's so easy for us to get caught up in like just the high
Okay.
work life that you don't realize, like, actually, you did quite enough today. Thank you.
Yeah. And just going back, it's on my website under the resources tab. There's that 5 steps that you could, like journal prompts that you could do to kind of question to start that process of making those changes.
And when we start, like, let's say we're implementing these steps and we're trying to change this negative self-talk to, you know, first it's going to be like a feeling on the inside, right? Like you'll start to feel it. So how does this reframe change, and how is it influencing our goals? Like, what does that look like once let's say we're like, you know what? Yeah, I am pretty smart, or yeah, I can wear this, and
Yeah. I ask people all the time, what is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? Like, and people will come up with all different things. Like my client who came up with a marathon and going back to school. And then my next question is, what stops you from doing that? And sometimes my clients will stop and think about it and be like, me? And I'm like, okay, but like, get out of your own way. Let's get out of your own way. What do we have to do to move you out of your way? And then we'll look at that a little bit and figure that out. But once we get through all these different excuses, oftentimes the bottom line is me. I'm the one stopping myself. So why stop yourself? Like, what do we have to do next? Like, if our end goal is here, let's work backwards now. What's the next possible step you could take? So if someone wants to go back to school, what kind of program do you want? Like, let's Google search the programs and let's see. And that's the step to reach that goal. And then when you're like, well, what's so hard about doing a Google search? Like, let's say you want to be a therapist. How do I become a therapist? You just Google search it. What harm is that? And when people are like, well, that's nothing. I could do that on my lunch break. Okay, so then between now and the next time we meet, do that. And I literally help people break down those small, manageable steps so that they could be like, well, that's not hard to do. I can do that. And it's like, okay, then let's do that. And so that really helps, like, guiding them through that process of change.
That's wonderful. I think that's so much easier to like take it in bite size than feel like we were just talking before we started. I was like, yeah, like gotta make sure we don't get overwhelmed. It's so easy. Like I gotta do everything right now.
That's part of like a societal thing that's going on right now, is everybody wants that immediate gratification. And all of this is a process, right? So it's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go to school and be a therapist tomorrow. I'm not going to go out today and run a marathon. There's steps, there's training, there's all different things that have to happen in order for us to reach that goal. The part of that is, I did it yesterday. I could put a little bit more work into it today. I could put a little bit more work in it tomorrow. And by doing that, you'll eventually accomplish that goal, whatever the goal is.
Nice. And I kind of want to circle back real quick when we were talking about how, let's say you have these negative ideals or self-talk towards yourself, and you realize that, it comes from, because like the root of it is going to be some kind of message, or like you said, an unspoken narrative that was passed down to you. I feel like that just recognizing that could be quite hard. And my question is like, how do you, guide your clients to kind of maneuver through that, like, because it can be quite emotional, I think, especially when, I think for me, it was recognizing like my parents did do the best they could and acted and taught me how I should, go through life checking all these boxes for security purposes. And when I realized that it was like deep down, I was like, I can't do this. This is not for me. It was rough. It was like, damn, I'm not
It's
with them anymore, but like, you have to unlearn that and, go through that process.
And a lot of people do that. And that is a hard part of the process. I call that shoulding on ourselves. Like, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And I tell people, stop shoulding all over yourself. And my clients, they laugh when I say that, but it's so true. Should is an expectation. And when it's our expectation or someone else's expectation put on us and we don't meet it, we tend to feel bad about ourselves. So that's why there are certain words that just are like nails on a chalkboard for me. And should is one of them. Should and normal are the two biggest ones, because people ask me all the time, like, what's normal? And I'm like, well, what's normal for you? Because what's normal for you might not be normal for me. And that's okay. It is okay that my normal is different than your normal. It doesn't make one better or worse than the other. They're just different, and different is okay. And when I reframe the should like that to my clients, it helps them feel more empowered to think of it in that way. And then they're able then to go back to their spouse, their partner, their parent, and just be like, I know you want this for me, but I need to do this for myself. And I know it's different, but I'm still the same person that you love, and we're still going to have that same relationship together.
I love that.
Yeah. We got to stop shitting all over ourselves. Women in particular do that. I have to do this, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing that. And it's exhausting. It is just exhausting. It is just exhausting. And whatever it is, whether it's, I should be doing housework, I should be doing, no, who says, who is going to come to your house if that dish is in the sink and have any judgment about that? Who's coming to judge us like that? Usually most people say our mothers. And I'm like, well, that's where we got those negative messages from usually. So that's not true. It's okay to have a dish in your sink or dishes in the sink or have a lived-in house. That is okay. No one's coming to judge you. And if they're coming to judge you, you probably don't need them in your life that much.
Oh, one more time.
We don't need the judgment. We're hard enough on ourselves. We don't need people judging us. I tell people, you ever notice on LinkedIn? LinkedIn tells you who's following you, and you ever see anyone who you used to work with who's like a friend of me who might be like looking at you? You know what I mean? There are those lurkers out there on social media. They're stalking us because they want to see what we're doing. Let them stalk you. Let them watch you. It doesn't matter, because if you're a frenemy of them, their opinion's not going to hold a lot of weight. The people that really want to be in your life, that accept you for who you are, they're going to be in your life, whether the dirty dish is in the sink or your house is completely, showroom perfect. They're going to love you no matter what.
Yeah. No, I absolutely, that was such a gold nugget, and I love you for that. Because you're so right, and it's just, you can't, I think one of the biggest things I've learned over time, like since really pivoting my lifestyle and learning to like be independent and grow and thrive and be like really becoming the woman I've always wanted to do, I had to learn how to recognize that there were people in my life, even though I don't talk to them anymore, but they're still holding on to this idea or version of myself who doesn't even exist. So what they have to say, like, it's just, you have to be like, oh, wait, like, I don't know what chapter of my story you're still on, because I'm on book 3.
Exactly. And that's okay for them to be there. If they want to be there and they think they know better, okay, you do you. That's okay. I'm going to keep doing my life because this is what makes me happy. And that's the most important thing that we want for our clients. We want them to be happy. That, happiness comes from within, and it's a level of contentness. People come in all the time. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. Happiness is just as fluid and coming and going as all the other emotions, as anxiety, disappointment, frustration. It's elusive. We want contentness. Like, okay, I'm okay right now. And you know what? Today, I'm just going to take a little time. I'm just going to scroll on my phone, and that's going to be okay for now. And then I'll get up and I'll do what I have to do. But like, we want that okayness, that it doesn't matter if other people are judging me. It's like Teflon. It's not going to impact me because I'm doing what I need to do to take care of myself.
Oh, wow. This has been such a great conversation, Karen. I feel like you've dropped so many gold nuggets. So I kind of want to like bring it all home. Is there anything you would want people to know about when it comes to reframing these beliefs? Like one more thing before we finish.
I have, there's 5 on my website, but I actually have about 15 different questions that I ask people. The other thing that's important is pulling from somatic experiencing and body-centered psychotherapy. When people are asking these questions of themselves, I want them to note, what are they feeling in their body, right? What's the sensation? What emotion is that linked to, right? Because if it's something from the past, like a traumatic event or a traumatic relationship, you're going to feel that in your central nervous system, and it might not feel that great. But we really want to look at all those different patterns in those different things that we're doing, those negative messages. How are they holding you back? Let's look at the patterns of that. And then let's figure out a way to challenge it a little bit. And sometimes it might be okay to stay where we're at, but other times we have to take a step outside that comfort zone. So we want that level of okayness with a little bit of risk associated with it.
Nice.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, and you're right. I remember this was a while ago, but when I was working with my own coach and going through my program and training, I had a lot of icky, like tightness in my chest and then in my throat. It was wild. So
When that kind of thing, that's a beautiful like segue right into this. When a client says that, I'll ask them to describe it just like you did. And then I ask them, what part of your body feels okay or neutral? And then we kind of want to float back and forth between the okay part of us and that part that feels icky and tight. And we just want to kind of move through that a little bit to get that out of our central nervous systems.
yeah. And again, everybody, I'm going to have Karen's website that's got a lot of excellent resources, including journal prompts and other resources to help you kind of start learning how to navigate this negative self-talk. So Karen, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and discussing like what we're actually looking at when it comes to like this narration. It's like, at the end of the day, you are not your thoughts. And what we might be saying is just repetitive to what we used to know, which is coming from what someone else used to know.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
And everybody, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Love and Lattes, and we'll see you in the next episode.